Hi, I'm Jean Walters, transformational coach, Akashic record reader, best-selling author, and teacher. And today I'm going to talk to you about breaking through your boundaries to living a life of passion. So I'm going to start with a story. Perhaps you've heard this story before. It's about a golden Buddha. And this golden Buddha was in Thailand about 300 years ago. It was in a Buddhist monastery, and the Buddhist monks knew that the Burmese army was going to be coming into their land shortly and plummeting their land. So they wanted to So they wanted to cover up this beautiful golden, pure gold statue to protect it. And as a result, they put 12 inches of clay around the statue. What happened was that the army came into the country and did plummet the land, but at the same time they also killed all the Buddhist monks. So the secret of this golden Buddha was lost for about 250 years. And in the 50s, the monks at the monastery were beginning to move the statue, and it cracked because the crane that they had ordered was not ready for such weight, and they were surprised. So there were some cracks and there was some gleaming coming through these cracks. And as a result, one of the curious monks started chipping away at the cracks and began to discover that there was gold underneath. So this beautiful golden Buddha was discovered. And in today's world, it would be worth about $300 million. But this story is really about you, because each one of us have a golden Buddha within us. And we have maybe clayed over it in some way through old belief systems, through comments people have made, and through bad training. So most of us have been trained to be good little boys and girls, and oftentimes that means not listening to that inner voice that we have that is trying to guide us in another way. So one of the ways that we can begin to get in touch with our golden Buddha, the treasure that we have within, which is really your gift to the world, your talent, your skill, and your beautiful, unique self, is to kind of look at some childhood pictures. And we can see in these pictures there's a person there that has a gleam and a life and a vibrancy. And we want to get back in touch with that person. Perhaps when you were a child, you liked to play games like superhero games, or perhaps you wanted to build things. You built tree houses. Or it could be that your dream was to be a nurse or a healer, or maybe you were to write. There was something going on within you. It came through your games. There was a client I knew that loved crossword puzzles and mysteries and trying to figure things out. And later on she became a really very successful realtor because she looked at every job that she had as trying to figure out the puzzle, the mystery, and coming up with the answer. So she used her passion in mysteries and puzzles to become a great realtor. So that's what I mean. Each thing that we dreamed about as a child is a cue to our golden treasure. I loved biographies and autobiographies, and when I went to the library every week, I read every biography and autobiography that was available to me in my age range, because I wanted to understand how people thought, how they worked, how they figured things out, how they knew they were to be an inventor or a president or a diplomat. I wanted to understand that. How did they know? How did they know? So, of course, I brought that into my work, because now as a coach and a counselor, I'm working with people all the time, unlocking those mysteries and helping them get in touch with their golden Buddha. We all have it. So there's a story, Norman Vincent Peale, who was the writer of The Power of Positive Thinking, an iconic book, goes way back. He was working with a young man who had failed at the insurance business 3 different times. Why did he work in the insurance business if he failed 3 times? His father was a wonderful, very successful insurance agent. And so he was trying to help his son be a very successful man. But the problem was his son's DNA, his spiritual DNA as I call it, did not match up to insurance. So when Dr. Peel was talking to him, this young man was touching the wood of the table next to him, and he was really kind of caressing it. Dr. Peel said, "I noticed that you're touching that wood and you seem to really like it." He said, "Yes, I love wood." He said, "I love the texture of it, I love working with it, I love the feel of it, I love designing and creating furniture." And Dr. Peel said, "Well, for heaven's sakes, why don't you try and use that as a business and see what happens?" The man lit up because he was now being encouraged to go into his passion. And as a result, he created a very successful business designing and creating wood furniture. And each piece was a work of art. And that's what I know, that each one of us has that art within us. We have the ability to be an artist in our own way, whether it's an accountant, whether it's an attorney, whether it's a nurse doctor, an architect. I have another client who loved to build things. And what he ended up building was medical centers and wellness centers, and he would not design the structure, but he designed the whole process. He became a wonderful builder. So each one of these people took something that they gravitated toward as a child and they made it into something else that was, they used that symbol, that icon as it were. So what we want to do is ask ourselves questions. What was my dream? What did I want to do? What is it that I always wanted to do as a child? What is it that resonates to me? What is it that I lose time doing now? How did I lose that? What happened? How can I get that back now? So every one of us has things that we do in our life now. It could be a hobby. It could be the way we help people, that we lose time. We forget to eat. We forget to sleep. We are so in love with what we're doing. And that's how you begin to find your golden Buddha. You get in touch with that and you start rebuilding it. Now, along the way, we have various blocks that keep us from doing that. So some of the blocks are, well, most of the blocks really are things we've learned to do. We have developed negative habits. And these, every time we have a negative habit, it gets in the way of our light, our glimmer, the golden treasure that we have within. So some of these blocks would be holding grudges, are doing pity parties. You know, I'm a victim today. He did this to me and she did that to me. And what we do when we go into that mode of thinking is that we're focused on that out there instead of in here, but we're also creating a very negative energy that keeps us from our true love, our treasure. So what we want to do is start changing those things. There's other things like being argumentative. Mostly we argue with ourselves, and then we argue with everybody else. And comparing, blaming, and so forth. So I have a story. When I was in 3rd grade, we had a meeting, my mother, my teacher, and my twin sister Jane, and me, at the school. And the teacher said to my mother, "Jean is ahead of the class and she could skip the next grade. But Jane, my sister, is just right on track. She's with the class. She would not be able to skip the grade. So I think that Jean should stay back with the class and not skip ahead." So I learned 2 things. One is that being ahead of things is not honored, you know, and I have to wait for everybody else. So that was some clay I had to remove. I had to release that because at this point in time, it's like I have a rhythm and I'm going with my rhythm. And maybe people aren't going to keep up with me. Maybe they are. But I'm going to go with my rhythm. Excuse me. And the other thing is that I'm not waiting. So these are some of the things that I had to learn from going back and looking at some of my childhood experiences. And I'm using that as an example because you have some of the same things that have happened to you. The only way we can release a negative behavior is to create a positive behavior. It's like the story in the Bible where you remove the field of weed, and then if you don't plant something instead, then the weeds come back stronger. So we have to create new behaviors. And some of the new behaviors would be forgiveness. If I think you wronged me, maybe it's time for me to forgive you. And what happens to me is I'm cleaner, I'm freer. And if we don't have to gossip. We don't have to hold grudges because, again, that's a time to forgive. And then arguing. Wouldn't it be better just to go, you have your opinion, I have mine? Or we don't even have to say it. Everybody gets to have their own opinion. It's a free world. Comparing is useless because we are each a unique being. We each have our own way. There's not two snowflakes that are alike, and there's not two people that are alike. So to compare yourself to others doesn't make any sense. You're just really wasting a lot of time. So what we want to do then is find those blocks and begin to remove the clay and become our beautiful self. The last part of this is to take action. Now that you've got the negatives put aside, and I'm suggesting that you take one and work on it, then take the next one and work on that one, and take the next one. The next thing would be action, and that means educate yourself on the things that you really love. With the guy that did the woodworking, maybe he took a class to get really good at it, I don't know. But educate yourself, find a mentor, a tutor, get counseling. Align yourself with people who are already doing the things that you love. But join Toastmasters, learn to meditate. That's always good, by the way. And get busy with action so that you're moving toward what you really want. In that way, you begin to connect with that beautiful vibrancy that you have within. It's golden. It's a treasure. And your treasure is not like anybody else's treasure. Your story is not like anybody else's story. You have your own story. And that story can hold you back or it can move you forward. And it's your choice, whichever way you want to go. So the last part is just, I bless you with all of this knowledge, and I hope that you will take it to heart and use it to your own betterment, because I know that you have a golden self. And it is your mission in life, as it is mine, to live that and to be that. Thank you so much for listening.